Sun Young Yang with the Bus Riders Union. There's a couple of concerns that we want to raise in specific to the corrective action plan and the service equity analysis methodology, based upon what the staff conducted so far on the exposition line and the June 24th service changes. Just to clarify, the service equity analysis is a planning tool to ensure that an agency, in its earnest effort, is trying to avoid discriminatory policies before it happens. Yet currently, right now, how the planning staff has conducted is no more than a paper process that gives pretext to discriminatory cuts. And that's primarily because the staff decided to completely eliminate or not include thorough budgetary alternatives when justifying discriminatory cuts. If Metro is pushing discriminatory policy based on balancing the budget, then it must show that they looked at all operation eligible and other budgetary alternatives. Right now, the way that the staff is conducting the equity analysis that you guys are turning in does not include budgetary alternatives.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunny. Yes, yes.
Sunny.
Director Nguyen has a question from Sun Young. Yes, Sun Young Yang is your name. Sun Young, come on up here to the...
It's not on?
Yeah, it's on.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. With regard to the service monitoring, right now, you're saying it needs to include a budget analysis?
The service equity analysis.
Right. And I would think that when you say budget, you mean the allocation that is provided in certain areas? So
the way it goes is that right now, let's say, with the exposition line, the 305 to 740 line is getting cut. The equity analysis showed that those cuts will lead to a discriminatory impact. Title VI regulation 49 CFR 21 says that when there's a finding of discriminatory impact, then the analysis has to continue to then legally prove that the agency has a justification, that it's a business necessity in the public interest, and two, that they looked into other potential less discriminatory alternatives, and the policy that they're adopting is the least of the discriminatory alternatives. So when they're looking at the options, right now the only options that the staff is looking is, well, we need to cut this service. If we don't cut this service, our only other option is to cut some other bus line or raise fares or change fares. But in reality, what they should be also looking at is all the budgetary options that the agency has as part of the alternatives. When we raised this with the Chief Counsel of MTA, Doral Carter, he agreed, saying that we assume that if the agency is doing the service equity analysis in its earnest, that it would include the budgetary alternatives.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask a question, could you just stay there? If I could ask a question with regard to that. Mm-hmm. So, again, that you understand our budget is based on requirements that only certain funds can be utilized. So you're saying within all bus operations, all of those options?
Not just bus operations, but all of operation eligible funding as well, and how that's allocated.
Operation what?
Eligible funding as well.
All right. Let me ask the question of our consultant. Why are we not doing that?
Actually, I'm staff, and we submitted the analysis to the MTA, and they were approved. They said they were good to go with the board. So there appears to be a conflict between what they advised us and what they might provide.
A conflict with who?
The MTA advised us the analysis we did for the Expo line, and we submitted the orange line as well, and they had no problems with them, and so they were brought to you for approval.
So they don't require that budget review?
No, they asked that you look at other alternatives, and we looked at 2 or 3 alternatives for disparate impacts that we found. Disparate impacts that we found were only related to the cost, so only people paying cash fares, and generally only people paying one-way cash fares, so a very small percentage. We in fact did identify that they would have a higher cost.
I guess what I'm trying to understand, in your analysis, did it include this review of the budget? That's what I'm asking.
We looked at 2 or 3 other alternatives that would have had budget impacts. We didn't look at the entire budget of the agency.
Why not?
We submitted it to the MTA. They said it was fine the way we did it. We're following their guidance. Their guidance doesn't say that you have to look at the entire budget of the agency.
Let me do this just for a minute, if I could Let me do this for just a minute. Let me just finish through this thing and we can continue with the question and answers. But if I could, I just want to.
Public comment?
Yeah, I've just got 2 more of these, and want to give them respect.
The public comment get to comment more than we ever get to talk here.
Well, no, we'll be able to do the best.
Well,
all the questions.
I've been here now for 2.5 hours.
I got you. 1 second. Esperanza Martinez, and then Damian Goodman. Damian, you still with us? And then,
good afternoon. Esperanza Martinez, lead organizer with the Bus Riders Union. So on deficiency number 3 around service monitoring, I just want to let the board know or remind the board that that deficiency is actually still, the FTA is still determining whether or not you actually violated civil rights regulations. So there's still more information to come down the pipeline. And we urge the board to direct staff to look at systemic solutions to address the disparities that were actually highlighted in the passenger survey. A PR campaign actually does not get at the real reasons why people are experiencing overcrowding. The passenger survey results indicated the real impact of trickling measures and service cuts that your staff not only refuses to acknowledge will cause harm, but completely have overlooked and ignored. If staff and the board actually believe that these cuts would not lead to harms, then your survey would not have shown a disparity in the experience of overcrowding by people of color passengers. A marketing campaign is an insult, and we urge the board to actually look to restoring the 1 million hours of service that you took away.
thank you. Malcolm Klugman and Arnold Sachs. And then we'll go to Director Monet.
I want to ask a question that I think we need to think about, which is the opposite of how we've been looking at this, which is, why aren't more people of color riding the bus? Is there something we're not doing? Are we charging too much money so they have to get a car together with 6 people in it to get to work or something like that? We need to think about that. What can we do to get more people? Because cutting the 305 is a very bad idea. It's a terrible idea. Last year in October, they had a book festival at West Hollywood Library, and I was able to get on a bus, the 305 right there, and go to the Watts Towers Jazz Festival. One bus. Now, that's because Los Angeles is crazy. You shouldn't be able to take one. It should be a grid, but LA isn't a grid, so you have to do that. But you need to get people to use the bus to go to work and to go to attractions in minority neighborhoods so we can spend money there and make people happy.
Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. First, the legal costs involved in this civil rights action. Can we get an idea on that? Second, mention about different languages. Has the county registrar's office ever faced a legal problem with its voting requirements at election time? They put up signage for 7 different languages. How come MTA, again, working with the county, why can't there be a cooperative agreement between the county and the MTA regarding languages? If they have 7 voting languages for the county, why does the MTA have to have 50 languages for the buses? Fare changes? How come the day pass riders ride on the Silver Line don't have to pay the extra $1, but Easy Pass riders have to pay the extra $1? How come that inequity that isn't addressed? And as far as this bid thing, I think Supervisor Molina is asking why isn't this program being followed. He's saying, well, we submitted Plan B and Plan B is okay. It's not the same.
Thank you. Director Molina, did you have, you
Well,
continue
Mr.
the line of
Chairman,
questions?
first of all,